We're still in that tense, be polite, keep your distance, wish they had toilet paper mode. But there's an undercurrent of all of us that we don't want to acknowledge in our civilized lives. And so this campfire talk is specific to providing security without losing your humanity. Till you need to. But you sacrifice something when you forget who you are in the context of your life and preserving it and preserving the ones you love. And it could go either way. You could try to hang on to some sort of civility at the risk of perishing because someone else has already snapped into that crocodile brain and they have no remorse about taking your water, food, shelter, any of the life support systems that we cherish and others don't have. The others that don't have are more hungry and will do more extreme things to have those things. And in that space, you have to acknowledge that darker side of humanity and then adjust accordingly. This is where being a proactive practitioner of skills makes all the difference in the world. A reactor is going to hunker down and wait until the threat barges through their door, when more than most cases, it's not the threat barging through the door, it's the lack of water, the lack of calories, the lack of being able to stay warm through the cold nights, because no one's coming through that door and no one's going to come save you. If you're that barricaded in your isolated hidey hole, well, that's not very effective. So communications, I talked about systems, life-sustaining systems and elements that we need to be sure we have redundancy in the previous campfire talks. This is all about that fine razor's edge, being proactive to provide security, to be aware, to understand the possible versus perceived threats. Again, refer to past campfire talks. But how do we do it so the neighbors don't think we're crazy? Or more importantly, how do we do it so it doesn't draw attention to ourselves? That nice picket fence that you put up, with the wind chimes on it as an early detection. Or the brush piles you make to feed the snowshoe hare so they protect from the fruit trees, but are also noise and they're not barriers that are going to stop anybody, but you certainly could hear them coming in those directions. And it's not about being paranoid, it's about being artistic and multitasking, not really doing too many things at once to be overwhelmed. You want to stay focused but aware of your situation. And it's not situational awareness. That's too focused on a scenario. It's never the scenario you have in your mind that gets you. It's the one that everyone bypassed or overlooked that kind of sneaks up and makes itself an inconvenient thing and then dangerous and then deadly, like hypothermia, chronic hypothermia, or food poisoning, or the water's out, or there's riots in the streets around empty stores because we need fill in the blank. And we could see it like bird alarm waves. First there was plenty, it all was baseline, suddenly murmurings of a fluid, and it'll never come here. The second wave was, oh gosh, it's over there, yikes, it's on our soil. Then finally we're getting it popping up in eventually every state, and then the micro ripples on the landscape are what's going on in your immediate neighborhood. Friends, stay far enough apart and give you the pleasantries, and they feel the nervousness that you feel as you look at empty shelves and go, hopefully this is the worst of it, and you don't really know. So let's get back to reclaiming your sacred fire. First, peace of mind. You want to come from a good place before you make any decisions, because if you don't, you're going to spiral into the abyss of paranoia, and you're going to have parapets and machine gun nests on the roof. Now, there's some of you guys out there who would be like, oh, cool, Mad Max, but you're talking about people killing each other is the next step, right? So diffusing while preparing simultaneously almost seems like a paradox. But what you want to do is create a work of art that blends into the landscape, betters your long-term quality of life, and addresses the short term. When I say short term, 3 to 12 months out, possibilities, challenges. Okay, and again, we talked about this before. Blockages, imbalances, or lack. Be proactive. What could run out that you need? What for life-sustaining practice? I mean, my goodness, folks. Grass, snow, leaves, all of these things can be used the same as toilet paper. That's not a survival need, that's a comfort item. All right? Prioritize, people. Calories and now exposure in public are going to be something you need to put on your critical top 10 list of think about this before I action plan. But then if you have it locked down, it's quite enjoyable, really. Going out and digging up Japanese knotweed roots as an antiviral and doing all of the things we can to boost our own immune system, harvesting and consuming balsam fir and white pine, not just for the vitamin C, but for the pycnogenol and all the terpenes that are in there to help us with our immune system and flush our system as well, right? Get those things out of there. So at the same time, we're working out by just shoring up infrastructure, clearing away things so that we can see, making sure people understand that we have a protocol in place. You can't just come in anymore. You have to park across the street and then be greeted. And we have systems to support that, 24/7 now. And we're ahead of the ball, so we have to keep it quiet. We can't just run around in our fatigues and our camouflage. Not that we would, but we're going to be good neighbors. We're going to be communicative, but cautious. We're going to have protocols to keep everybody safe. And we're going to be educational about it. We're going to be upfront and sharing, hey, this is going to help us create a relationship based on health instead of dis-ease, distrust, or worse. We're not going to let it devolve to that. So we're building these critical bridges of connection to people around us to help increase resiliency and to defeat the panic monster, that big looming scary thing that will cause us to freeze when we need to move or to move when we need to freeze. Remember, peace of mind. Campfires like this do a lot, right? Going out and filling the bird feeders because you know that they help you understand when people are coming up the door or before they even knock on it, really. A good awareness tool, right? And peaceful and nice, and the neighbors could appreciate it. Putting concertina wire and a flaming pit around your house, especially if you live in the suburbs or in Manhattan, probably not going to be the best idea. So, identify the exposures you have concerning your life-sustaining resources and systems. And then profile on that. How do I create an expression of security, protection, resiliency in these exposures so that I can manifest a better situation than we have now in response to a situation coming down the pike that might debilitate people? Remember, your focus determines your reality. This is where you've got to step up to the fullness of your being and let that fear just nip a little bit at your heels, but don't let it jump on your back and start ripping your throat out, because it will. Look at your spending habits, your calorie investments, your time spent traveling. All of these things need to be more streamlined, efficient, simple. If you're going out, it's not just for one thing. Oh, I forgot, I got to go back out again. You're going to make a list. You're going to talk to everybody in your community or your family. That one designated person is going to go out with that list. Receipts, change, whatever. One point of contact out there as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible. Plan it for when everybody's at work, not at lunchtime. Less people. If you're going to harvest materials from stores while they're still open and there's still stuff to offer, think about going into the more affluent grocery stores instead of the ones where there's a high percentage of people who have no expectation or motivation of personal hygiene, much less viral protocols. As cruel as that sounds, as politically incorrect as that sounds, you're now in I need to not be a vector to kill my grandmother mode, or I need to not be a vector to kill the newborn, the neighbor's kid mode. because quite frankly, that's where we're at. And then we can return back to our, you know, regularly scheduled, civilized codes of conduct. But this virus doesn't care about your cause. You should take ownership now of individual hygiene, wellness, and then immediate family right after that. Put the oxygen mask on yourself before you pass it to the young ones. And if everybody does that, including the young ones, for what they can handle at their age appropriately without too much stress involved, make it fun, make it challenging, make it exciting, be a part of a family kind of activity, whatever you're doing, to have that behavior, the default, is going to serve you well. Come on, lighten up. It's like a big storm coming. We're little kids. No one knows what's going on, but we're going to weather it and make it an adventure until we have to buckle down. And if we have to buckle down, we will be well prepared. So once this is over, I hope to see you on the trail. Good night.